I just watched this clip talking about uh, how the human animal has been adapted to be a runner, right? And they went through all of these sort of the musculature, the skeletal system, like sort of the adaptations in terms of our feet, our Achilles tendon, our buttocks, like the size and the shape and all of these things that have, and even our shoulder girdle and the way that our shoulders operate in order to assist us in running. And there's this reference to the running and this reference to the being bipedal, right? As this striking um, adaptation that has given us. Well, obviously, it's given us every. Well, I don't know if it's given us everything. Like, one of the things I really liked listening to. So that was an interesting thing. This, and it comes back to this idea of this quality of us being runners, and how that has shaped us. Maybe in terms of our uh, uh, in terms of our what's the word, like our hunting, like our ability to compete in terms of hunting. I've heard this story before that's one of the reasons why we're able to compete is that we have the capacity to be long distance runners, to go for long distances, maybe tiring animals out or something like that. Maybe. So you know certainly I think it's a component, and I think that being generalists in the many ways that we are generalists, I think contribute to a lot of the distinction that we have from our mammalian um, family. Uh, but one of the interesting um, descriptions or distinctions that I heard had to do with comparing us to, say, like chimpanzees, and how our motor neurons fire uh, in comparison to how their motor neurons fire. And this distinction spoke about the difference in terms of the groupings of those motor neurons. So in a chimpanzee, it was like it had something to do with like mass grouping. So like a motor neuron would fire, but then it would set off a series of musculature responses. Whereas with ours, it's very distinct, right? So something will fire, but then only like your pinky toe will shoot, right? Or like it becomes very to describe this quality of dexterity that exists within the human body. And to me, uh, the dexterity, I think, is a, and I come back to this idea of dexterity too, because I think that ultimately what we are is a very, I don't know if the word is dexterous type of animal. When I think of the word dexterity, um, what I think of specifically are like fine motor movements, like so very a lot of granularity, a lot of specificity, which allows us to, yes, to play, for instance, musical instruments. Um, to So for instance, our tongue can take many shapes. We have dexterity in our fingers. We have dexterity throughout the body. But I think that what's really probably significant about the level of dexterity that exists in our physiology is that it may in fact be also a reflection, a sort of a mirror reflection of the dexterity that exists in our minds, right? So that this quality of dexterity uh, is the the I guess the main engine behind this capacity to be a generalist, right? So you could think of, and I'm thinking on my feet here, but you could think of dexterity as a type of, as maybe the prime mover for a generalist. That a generalist must be, uh, I don't know, dexterous. Is that the word, dexterous? Like that a generalist. That's like, so the thing I guess that bothers me about human physiology when I look out into nature is that I feel like nature produces um, uh, niche adaptation, right? Nature, uh, evolution, all of the machinations and the mechanics that exist in nature produce produce a type of niche adaptation, right? So our animals become well adapted and well suited to specific niches, and it's just undeniable, and you can't take them out of those niches or they'll die, right? That's how our animals exist. Um, so, and obviously, yes, okay, human beings are generalists, but what does that mean, right? Like, what does that mean? Like, I feel like, for from nature's perspective, generalists don't seem particularly helpful, right? Because well, I don't know if helpful is the right word, but they don't seem particularly um uh strong. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't seem like they like like again, yeah, pit a man against a lion, mano y mano, right? Um, or even against a chimpanzee for that matter, right? And chimps are supposed to be stronger than men too. So the question becomes, well, then how or why or how does nature produce, like, how is it that in every other animal that exists there is this niche adaptation, but in us that doesn't exist. So I've been wrestling with this idea for a little while now, and so it has to do with this intellect, right? Now, is it an intellect? Is it not an intellect? At what stage in our development does our intellect show itself to be an intellect? Is it when we become this human form, or is it before that point in time? Now, I'm not sure. I think definitely uh, this intellect is the thing that separates us, right, from nature. This level of dexterity, not just in terms of our physiology, but in terms of our thinking, our style of thinking, um, and uh, maybe there were other generalists. So I guess what I'm wrestling with is, okay, how do you prove it? How do you prove that that dexterity is the adaptation that is necessary to become a generalist, right? How do you prove that? And I don't know that you do, because we're the only generalists in the animal kingdom, right? So we're the only ones that exist. So whether or not my assumptions are true, I don't know. But so what I'm thinking though is, okay, now I have this belief that we're aquatic style primates somehow, as per the dexterity. Like I feel like that feels very uh, um, related or relevant somehow. This idea of dexterity and being a primate, certainly, but the style of primate that we are. Like, I don't really believe we were ever tree primates. I don't see that. Like, I still don't see that. I don't think we were ever in the trees, just because, not because we couldn't be, not because I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, chimpanzees, no. I don't feel like that. I just feel like I don't see enough evidence for that. I don't see enough evidence for that. I feel like, based on how our babies, uh, uh, if like, how just based on you know infancy and the physiology of infancy and how long, like, no, I don't see trees being part of our common history. I don't see that. Um, but this idea of dexterity seems relevant to me. And so this dexterity in terms of physiology implies a dexterity of mind, implies a kind of um, relationship to this role of being this generalist, which makes me think that we must have been very smart for a very, very long time. Um, okay, I can't prove it though, but I would say that perhaps perhaps the reason we exist and exist singular, because I heard somebody make that point before, like, why aren't there any other human beings, right? And yeah, I'd never really thought about it before, but like there are different types of primates all over the place, right? There are tons of primates on the planet, right? But there are no other humans on the planet, right? So you've got chimpanzees and monkeys and rhesus monkeys and this type of monkey and that type of monkey and gorillas and the baboons, and like there's like a million different types of primates. There's only one type of human. Why is that, right? So that's why I don't think that we are specifically related to primates in that direct way. I don't think so. Because I think the thing with us is that we've always been distinct from monkeys and chimpanzees and gorillas. We've always been distinct because we don't feel threatened by them, right? We're not part of the same, there's no competition there, is I think what I'm trying to say, right? We're not competing with them. So they're not relevant where this idea of dominance is concerned. Um, where we're now that could be explained by saying, okay, well, we're generalists, so we can occupy various different niches, and maybe we won't dominate. We won't come to dominate to dominate a given niche, but we can move through it fairly efficiently. I would say that that's true. Uh, but maybe um, where the reason, or maybe what I'm wondering is uh, this idea of being a generalist does make us a different type of primate. So we're not primates in like in the classical sense, the way that we think of primates, but we're some other type of primate that is, uh, by and large, uh, uh, has, I think, at its core some kind of fine motor uh, reflexology built into its neurology. Um, Dexterous, like we're this other thing, right? We're not that. We're something else, right? And now, why aren't there more of us? I think because yes, we obviously killed everybody, but but I think I think it's this mind. Like I think it's the fact that we are conscious, and maybe consciousness isn't unique to human beings. Like you think about Chrono, whatever the hell his name was, the caveman, and I'm thinking there were other humans, like there were other styles of humans, and that um, uh, other styles of conscious, and I'm speaking consciousness now in the normal vernacular, like not conscious like planetary consciousness, but just self-aware, uh, linguistic, artistic style human, or humanoid at least, maybe not human, but humanoid, uh, did exist, probably did exist, because nature does do that. Nature does create variations on the same design, right? Um, and they would have been our competition, not chimpanzees, right? No, not chimpanzee, not gorilla. No, no, it's something else. Like something else was what we were competing with, you know. Like, and for whatever reason, I think just based on our nature and maybe based on consciousness, um, based on the fact that we are the style of thinkers that we are, that what we ended up doing ultimately was destroying all of the other forms of competition that existed at our level. So the other styles of humanoid primates that existed, these uh, dexterous, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but those other styles that were similar to us, who were communicative and abstract, perhaps, who did design, who were humanoid, that we competed with them. That there were other generalists. There'd have to be, because nature does design multiple forms, right? There were other generalists. And we have somehow managed to uh, uh, do away with the competition, right? Now, whatever that means. Did we interbreed? Did we, who knows? Yeah, maybe, probably, but maybe a mixture of interbreeding, maybe a mixture of wars, maybe whatever, doing what man does, right? And that's why there are no other human beings left. Not human beings, sorry, humanoids, right? There are no competitive humanoids left because that was our only competition, and we have the style of mind of consciousness that does anticipate, and we get scared and we get angry, so we have this style of mind that would eradicate competition, where nature doesn't do it if it doesn't have to. That's not how nature works. Nature works towards niche and balance, right? So you occupy a niche, you become adapted to that niche, and you arrive at some form of balance. That's what nature does. We don't do that. That's not what our brains do. That's not what uh, our neuroses and our psychology doesn't do that. Now, so I think that's how I feel about the generalist, because I think the idea of generalist seems incomplete, because I don't understand why we would be the only generalist, but maybe we weren't the only generalist. We eliminated all the other generalists, so now we're the only ones, and maybe necessary. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say, but certainly necessary, I guess, where our ancestors were concerned, because they felt it was necessary, whatever that means. But I don't know. Like, I don't. Hard to say, hard to say. But I think that that may be what is the or has turned out to be the destiny of the generalists, um, because yeah, we I don't think, anyways, I don't see us. I think in all likelihood we are not competing with primates, uh, in any evolutionary sense, right? And thus we have multiple primates. Like, there are tons and tons of primates on the planet, but we would see a threat, or see a challenge, or see something in a humanoid that has the capacity for language, or for thought, or for these sorts of things, or for create, that might be problematic to us, and so responded in some way, shape, or form, to that potentiality. Possibly, possibly. I think I see that. And so this idea of being a generalist, which I keep turning around in my head trying to understand what that means, does create distinction in the animal from other animals. So other animals are not our competition, not in any direct way, right? Not in any way that would threaten us. So it wouldn't have been something that would have. So what I'm trying to say is, maybe we've always seen ourselves differently. Um, I mean, we probably didn't think in exactly the same way that we think today, but maybe we've always seen ourselves differently. And so this idea of being our physiology, that has this dexterity built into it, may imply that our minds have always had a dexterity built into it, may imply that we ourselves have always been not just intelligent, like the way a dolphin is intelligent, but like very intentional, like very purposeful and intentional about what we want to do, and how we want to do it, and how we want to accomplish things, and blah blah blah. We may have always been like that, and I don't know what I mean by the word always. I mean, because I don't know when we would have appeared, the way that we physically look today. But maybe even before then. So I'm saying, like, whatever this trajectory is that we are, this path that we're on, maybe we've always been distinct from nature in a way, um, or at least aware of a certain level of distinction from nature. And the evidence for that is the fact that we're the only ones that exist like us, and that we didn't eradicate chimpanzees, we didn't eradicate gorillas, we didn't eradicate any other primates. We eradicated the primates that were closest to ourselves. So there's always been some form of distinction between the thinking primate, um, and the others. You know, so I mean, I'm guessing, but I'm feeling like there's something about that that seems really relevant somehow.